What's up everybody? Today we're going to talk about the different starting options for the Freelap Timing System. We have the TX Touch Pro touchpad, which is going to allow you to start your sprints when your thumb comes off of the touchpad, which is good for timing your 40-yard dash, 100-meter dash, times to 30, 60, etc. And then we also have the Freelap E-Starter. So with this, the gun is going to go off, that will start the clock, and then you'll be able to get those same times, but it'll include the time it took you to react to the gun. So I think both of these are useful options, and if you have a Freelap timing system or you're considering getting a Freelap timing system, it's probably worth having one of these, but there's a couple benefits to each of them, some things you might want to consider, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So first let's take a look at the Freelap Tx Touch Pro touchpad starter. So with this, you set it on the ground, you get into your stance, whether it's a 3-point stance or a 4-point stance like a block start. You get down in your stance, you put your thumb on the button, you can rest all your weight on it. There's no problem with putting all your body weight on it. You get into the set position and then you go. When your thumb leaves the touchpad, the timer will start. So typically with this, you're going to see times that are maybe 200 milliseconds faster than what you'll run with the Freelap E-Starter. So if you have both, or you transition from using the Touch Pro to using the E-Starter, you can assume there's about a 200 millisecond difference. Most of that is going to be because of the reaction time that you don't have with the touchpad, but there's also a brief moment in time where you may be pushing out of the blocks, but your thumb hasn't left the touchpad yet. Typically, you'll find that the time difference between this and the E-Starter is your reaction time plus just a little bit more. So for me, that's about 200 milliseconds. Now to use this, you'll set it on the ground. You want it to be about 45 degrees at an angle from where you wear the actual Freelap chip. So if you wear the Freelap chip in the center of your belt, you'll put this about a 45-degree angle from it, which will end up being pretty much naturally where your hands go when you're in your starting position in the blocks or in a 3-point stance. One thing that I like about the TX Touch Pro is that it's going to give you a real good idea of how you're actually accelerating, say from 0 to 10 or 0 to 20. Since you're not including reaction time in the time that you register to those distances, you can know that the time you ran is simply a result of how well you ran, not a result of you reacting much better to the gun on one rep or another. So if you're really trying to just assess acceleration performance itself from a static start, then I think the TX Touch Pro is a great way to go. Say you're training for the 40-yard dash or a sport that is not track and field where you don't have to react to the gun, then the TX Touch Pro is probably the best option for you, because if you're running and you're trying to develop speed but reaction time is not something that's important for you for your performance, then this is a great option. It's cheaper than the E-Starter, and I've had this thing for, 6 years, 7 years, maybe even longer than that. It still works. I've only had to replace the battery once, so it's a great option to have. It's more affordable than the E-Starter. So if you don't have any form of starting your sprints other than using a 1-meter lead-in with your Freelap cones, then I would say the TX Touch Pro is a great way to go. Now the second option we have for timing our sprints and starting our sprints with the Freelap timing system is the Freelap E-Starter. So with this, it has a built-in speaker on the bottom, a button on the top. You set it about 1 foot in front of the starting line on the lane line, and when you hit the button at the top, it'll give you 10 seconds, it'll give a set command, a gun will go off. When the gun goes off, the timer starts, so that way when you run to 10, 30, or 100 meters, that time that you're running is including the reaction time within it. So the times that you run in practice are probably going to be a little bit more reflective of what you're capable in competition, whereas the touchpad is going to err slightly on the side of being a little bit faster. This will err on the side of being slightly slower with the times. It doesn't really matter, it's just one is going to give you a time that includes reaction time, the other one won't. So obviously one's going to be faster than the other. This won't separate your reaction time from your time to 10, 20, 30, etc. It'll just include it. So with the touchpad, you might run 1.80, but with this, you might run 2.0 to 10 meters. But the real benefit of the E-Starter is you don't need someone else to start you off, and you can work on the skill of reacting to a gun in practice without having to use your phone. You can basically set it up so that you start with this, you put your phone over here so you can film yourself, and then you can compare your times and film at the same time. If you're just using your phone for the reaction time component, so for example, say you get the touchpad and then you use the Start Gun app on your phone to start you off, you're still going to develop that reaction time ability, and that's going to be a great way to save a little money, spend less on your starting device, and then use a free app to start you off, so you're working that reaction time component as well. But the negative there is you're going to have some other way of filming yourself if you want to look at your technique and assess how well am I running, how does that look, what can I improve on technically. those sorts of things. So I like the Freelap E-Starter because it allows me to free up my phone for me to film myself when I do block starts, still be able to start myself off reacting to a gun without having to have someone here to start me off themselves. And so if you're training solo and you want to assess your technique, or you want to send videos to your coach, this is a good way to work on having a reaction time, improvement in your training because you're reacting to the gun to start your sprints, but also be able to film yourself while you're doing it and also get those times that are going to be more realistic relative to what you might run in competition when you're timing yourself with the Freelap system. So no matter which route you choose, whether that's going with the TX Touch Pro or the Freelap E-Starter, I think having at least one of them is going to be a good addition to your Freelap setup if right now you're only running through Freelap cones. When you use Freelap cones, most of the time you're just going to use those for flying times, so that gives you a good idea of your speed endurance, or maybe acceleration from, say, 10 meters and beyond. But in order to capture those times that you want to get out of the blocks and see how well you're accelerating, and remember, acceleration sets us up to then do better things deeper into the race, to be able to assess those times, get that data, and be able to then better influence your training because you know how well you're running to 10, 20, and 30 meters from the start, then having at least one of these is going to be a good addition to your setup. You can get the TX Touch Pro for $139 and then use your phone to start you off using the Start Gun app. That way you're still working that skill of reacting to a gun, and then you can get your acceleration times with the touchpad. That's one way to go, and that's a cheaper way to do it. Or if you have a little bit more money to spend, you can get the Freelap E-Starter, which will free up your phone so you can film yourself and then compare the times that you're seeing to the technique that you're seeing and have more data available to you so you can better adjust what you're doing on the track and not just be getting times. Otherwise, you'd have to set up a separate camera, and that can be a bit of a hassle. So if you want to use your phone to film yourself while also starting yourself with the Freelap Timing System, then that's where the E-Starter is going to be a better option. If you don't mind filming yourself, you have another phone or another camera that you can use to look at your technique and film yourself, then that's where the TX Touch Pro might be a good way to go. Now, considering that I have both, I still use both. So some days I'll use the Freelap E-Starter when I want to work on reaction time, work on that very specific skill of starting against the gun and then getting my times including that. Other days I use the Touch Pro if I simply want to see how well am I actually accelerating to 10 meters, if I'm not too worried about what my reaction time is at that point in time, and I just want to focus on the actual time from when I leave the blocks to when I get through 10 meters or something like that, then I'll whip out the Touch Pro and use that. One thing I'll say is that when I've used the touchpad with younger athletes or athletes who aren't used to using it, they sometimes get a little mentally tripped out by it because they're so used to having their hand on the ground that when they go to having their hand on this slightly elevated little platform that is the touchpad, sometimes they kind of, overanalyze things and wonder, how am I supposed to do this? To me, it's very easy. You just get down in the position, put your thumb on it, and go. But for some people, I find that they just overthink it. So if you do get the Touch Pro, just understand there may be a little bit of a learning curve. It may take a little bit of time for those athletes to get comfortable using it. But once you've used it a few times, you get the hang of it and it's really no big deal at all. To me, it's nothing. But if you haven't used it, I've used it for years and years. If you haven't used it, then that might be a little bit of a hurdle. Some athletes might not like it, and that's where the Freelap E-Starter might be a better option because they don't have to do anything different with their hands. They don't have to put their hand on a touchpad. They can just put their hands on the ground like they normally do when they do their starts, and then the gun will tell them to go, and then they go, and then you register your times. So that's just something to consider if you're debating the E-Starter or the touchpad. The E-Starter is probably a little bit easier to use with younger athletes, so that way they're not overthinking it when they have to put their thumb on the touchpad to start. Now, if you do want to try one of these out, you can buy them from simplyfaster.com. If you want to support the channel, you can use my affiliate links below. I'll get 10% of the purchase, so I will make a little bit of money off that. You don't spend any more money, but I just get a little bit of the money that you're sending to Simply Faster. Help support the channel so I can keep making these videos and provide the content that I do. But whether you buy it directly from them or through my link, doesn't matter. They're good options that if you have a Freelap system already, I think they're a great addition, so that way you can time your acceleration, compare your acceleration to your top speed or your speed endurance, and have better data to then better influence your program so you can adjust things, tweak things to what you need to work on, emphasize your strengths, emphasize your weaknesses, however you're going about your training. It'll give you the data that you need so you can assess what you need to work on and better influence how you're training so you can hopefully run a personal best. So thanks for watching this video. I hope all is well with you guys. I'll catch you next time. This is Cody Bidlow with SprintingWorkouts.com and ATHLETE.X signing off.